Hey everyone, Mac is back. Today I'd like to go over some of the battle reports from our previous KvK. I'd like to talk about what was some of the positives, some of the negatives, some improvements that could be made during some of these rallies, and just kind of go over them because I think analyzing reports is very important in this game, so you can learn from them and to be able to just attack more efficiently without maybe losing less troops or killing more troops on their end. Maybe different commanders to put in there. When you're talking about rallies or you're talking about solo, it's always nice to be able to maximize the amount of damage that you can do, and I think that going over reports is very good. So I'm going to look at a few reports here, go over them briefly, and just going to give you some ideas of, maybe you can implement these ideas into your your strategy as well. So let's get to it. Alright, so here's the first report I want to look at, and this was a rally from Tag Bloody Wolf against Ardo. You can see the number of troops that he has in his castles, over 12 million, and the rally itself was about 4.6 million, almost 4.7. As we look at the report, you can see down here the troops, the formation was an infantry cavalry into a cavalry spear. So clearly that was a major outcome of this battle, is why it ended up that the 122 million power loss compared to 25. Basically 5 times the amount of power was lost in this rally. If you're looking at the reason why, the formation is probably one of the main ones, and that's something that you need to take into account when you attack with the wrong formation and they counter you. Obviously the infantry going into the cavalry, it's very, very bad for you. So that was one of the big things as well. Clearly the number of troops as well too. I'm not going to get into the bonuses. Is one thing that I don't like to share on here because everybody's I don't like to give out everybody's bonuses and where they where they stand. You can just see the counter here though is pretty amazing for Ardo and his defense. Looking at the commanders over here, I'm not sure I like these commanders together as well. It's another thing. I mean, obviously Sonara at 3 stars is way better than her at 4 stars if you have Layla in there. The problem is Layla, there's only 2 other females in there with Layla, so that's not very good. I'd rather have another female in there to proc her, to help chance to proc her off again. So I think that's a big aspect of it. As you can see over here with Ardo, in his defense, you would ask maybe that, hey, there's Layla there as well with Salma, so that there's only 2 females. Well, the thing with that is he has Jamie at 4 stars, plus he has 2 healers in here in Enzo and Drake, so they can be able to proc Jamie's weakness attack, and that's also very good too. So there's some synergy on both sides here with the weakness and the female. So I like that. I do prefer to go more towards one, every single one than not. So for instance, I'd rather have all females, or I'd rather all weakness attacks. But you can't complain about the outcome as well. But looking over here, I don't know what other commanders they may have, so I can't really speculate about that. When you look at the battle record, I always like to go and look in there to kind of see what happened. And as you can see here, the battle results didn't show up, which is kind of odd. But you can kind of like peek in here to kind of see how things kind of played out. And you can see that Salma actually didn't proc at all, but for anything. But the problem with that is because there weren't that many female commanders in there. So Salma might not have been one of the better commanders to have in there for Ardo's lineup, in my opinion. So kind of pretty decent attacks, and you can see that the counter is going to be the big thing. So just looking at different counters in here, you're going to see that let's see, we got cavalry into infantry, the 13,000 here compared to an infantry into cavalry, which is 4,200. So you can see the massive damage difference. It's pretty ridiculous. It's not just double. People don't realize that maybe that it's not double the difference. The difference really is, the cavalry is going to do twice as much damage, and the infantry is going to take twice as much damage. So it's and do obviously less damage to cavalry, half the damage. So it's pretty amazing in that respect. Here's another report. It seems a little odd, but I'll tell you why it's not as odd as it kind of appears to be. Looking at the formations here, we get the pure cavalry into a spear front, so you would think, oh my gosh, that these cavalry are going to be annihilated. A couple things. First, the tier 5, which I've talked about before in previous videos. Tier 5, those stats go considerably more, so that's amazing to have that. Also, the commanders, going back to them again, you can see that, you know, a 4-star Night King, 4-star Danny. Then you're talking, you know, Layla and Salma as a part of the female lineup. So you have 4 females in there, plus you have the Night King. I mean, it's absolutely amazing power that comes along with that. What you expect. Chidori is a very powerful account. You have 6.3 million troops going into 17 million. And just because it's 17 million doesn't mean that you know, all of them are going to be spear just because they have a spear front. You know, here's only 2.2 million. So once you get past this spear front here, then you're going to get into the cavalry, and it's even up cavalry, so that's going to make a big difference there as well. So that's also something you consider. I don't really look at the wounded or the deaths in this one. Obviously, 6 million deaths, quite significant here, and the power difference quite significant as well. I mean, you're talking what, 4 times the amount of death. It looks like there. And then you go to the battle. Like I said, I always like to look at that, and you see the very beginning of the battle, that 1 second. That can be really huge. So if you're looking at the commanders here and how that works out, well, here's Danny. She got off her you know, her awakening skill here to cause a dragon attack. And when you have a powerful dragon, as Chidori does, then you're going to see that. Look at the massive damage it does in a rally. Like, Danny is very powerful for that, doing that damage at the beginning. So those troops don't have no chance to attack at all. And then when you combine dragons in there to be able to get like reinforcement, there's 143,000 plus the reroute. So I mean, you're looking at the amount of troops you're rerouting. I mean, you're just rounding off here. I mean, that's a million there. There's another 1.5 million there. So 2.5 million already gone. So when you say 2.5 million there, you know, you're talking how many more in this area here. I mean, look at the deaths. I mean, that's the power going down right there. So like you said, 17 million. Well, now you're already taking 2.5 rerouting, so they're gone. Then you're adding more on 150,000. It's pretty crazy. Then you got some crit damage, and then eventually Salma, she'll get hers off. So we always look at that. So then she attacks, Layla attacks, procs her off. Leanna's in there, so she is going to attack. She does her War Soul Awakening, so Cav get another 5%. And Layla's 2 more times here because of that proc, which you can go 1, 2, or 3, which is great. Then Danny gets hers off as well, and then she gets her skill off in the first second, which is pretty crazy. So basically another 80% chance of missing their target for 4 seconds. So if we look at that, we go to the second one, we're going to look at their attacks. This is Wildfire, so nothing there at that 1 second there. Then we go to 4 seconds, and we're looking for zeros, and there comes some zeros. Okay, so there's a 0 there and a 0 there. So there's the missing. There's the misses that are going to occur, and that occurs from time to time. So you know, the normal attacks have an 80% chance of missing their target. So it's just something to consider, or something to look at to see where everything actually is going to happen. All right, so here's another report, and now we have a rallied soldiers of Charlie attacking this Farius over here, another tag player during this KvK. Just something to note here, as you can see that the infantry cav formation is a pure counter to the infantry spear. If you don't understand why this is, well, essentially the infantry attack the infantry front line here, and those spear will attack that front line of the infantry over here as well, which these infantry will counter that spear. And then the cavalry formation, or cavalry in the second row, can counter this infantry formation and absolutely destroy it. So it's quicker for that to happen, to be able to get to the spear formation, and that's when the infantry would be able to destroy them. Although when you are rallying in a castle like this, it has 16, almost 17 million troops, then you're also going to have, they're also going to have the counter on you anyway at some point, because their troops are going to be able to counter you. The cavalry here, these 3.8 million here, are going to hit that infantry at some point. But they're in the back row, so it's going to take them a little longer to get there. So there can be more damage can be dealt before that actually happens. When we look at the commanders here, we're going to look at, you can see that Jon Snow 4 stars, amazing. Having Sonare in there at 4 stars, along with Rey, is very good, and then even Lat's in there. They don't get their. This is a really good formation here. I like this, how this all was put together, and that's why you can see the damage amount was basically almost 3 to 1, so to speak. Looking at the commanders over here, Theon up there is good because he gives extra, I think it's 3 million troops, I think, or for every 3 million troops, I mean, he gives you an extra total attack, so that's very good. I'm not a big fan of even gold. Simon, he has that, I think it's attack reduction up there, so maybe that's not too bad. but a reduction, you're basically reducing the attack of 5.6 million troops, instead of, you know, if you were in a rally, if you put him in a rally and he could reduce the, you know, to reduce more troops, like the 17 million troops would be a little bit more effective. Not saying it's a bad thing, it's just something that, you know, you might want to consider as well. You know, having Julian here is actually pretty good because he buffs all troop types except for bows, you know, so that's very good as well. And then having infantry frontline lats in there is very good. Total attack for Annie is nice as well. Along with Theon, he gets total attack too, so those are all very good. So I wanted to show you one of the rallies that I did. Actually, maybe the only rally that I was able to get off, since I didn't really play quite for too long in this KvK. But as you can see here, I tried to go like a pure spear, knowing that this was a bow player. You want to go a pure troop type the best you can. So you're trying to get into those, so you're not essentially having you know, different lines hitting different, you know, formations. You know, like the second line or the third line, you don't have to wait for those attack. I think that's kind of how this kind of works. You can see we got absolutely destroyed when it comes to power-wise. So we lost 91 million compared to about 6 million. Looking at it says we have a victory here for this attack, and the reason it's a victory because the victory or the loss actually goes to whoever loses, based on who loses the most troops or you know, loses the least amount of troops, depending on how you look at it. So you can see here 2 million here, and about 600,000 in the hospital. So you're looking at what, 2.7 million, something like that. Where now we're looking at 800. We're looking at almost 3 million in this one that got, you know, based on that. But the problem is a lot of those were lower troop types. So if we go down here, you can see that it was all tier 1. It was a massive tier 1 front line. So you're talking 5 million of that tier 1. So they're going to win, you know, whoever attacks is going to win, because those are just going to melt away very quickly. But you have 5 million of them. So, you know, you can see that the 2 million of them died and 800,000 in the hospital. So it looks like actually 800,000 hospital is quite significant. So this is a tanking player, of course, for what they're doing. And as you can see, looking at the you know, looking at their commanders, very good commanders. That's a really good one for bows. You know, probably get Annie another 1-star there would be great to be able to get her, you know, an extra attack off for her, and the you know, her 4-star skill, which will do some direct damage, which will be very good as well. So that's I really like that. I'm sure the bonuses are very good for that. You can see my formation for a pure spear. I guess maybe I could change this up a little bit. I do have the female setup here. You can see having Danny 3 stars. Once I get her 4 stars, it'll be obviously a lot better. But it probably won't be too much better when it comes to you know, the facing off against this. But looking here, you can see that the dragon skill reinforcement puts some in there. The rerouted about 1 million troops, which is very nice. Salma got hers off. You can see a Theon here with his Poor Soul Awakening, put an extra 48% attack on there for having his. That's pretty significant to get 50% right in the beginning of the battle for you know, for Theon. So if you have a bow account and you're paying for some commanders, Theon would be absolutely excellent to be able to get the 4 stars. Looking at mine here again, Annie, when she got her attack off with Salma, who started to kill that wall. So to have a wall up actually helps you very well. So if you have a wall up, it'll actually hold off some of that Salma damage it'll have. But then Annie got her awakening off, her skill, which did a huge massive to that durability, and so did Layla, and then so did Arya on top of that. So having all of that together, it got through the wall first at the 1 second, which you're gonna have to get through at some point anyway. So it just sucks that no damage was dealt there. But if you have a wall up, you're a bow commander, have a wall up, it actually help you quite significantly. And the very last report I wanted to show here is I was occupying the Erie, and I had just left my troops in there, and some other, I had some reinforcements there as well, but it only was up to 2.5 million. And this whale of an account here in SL04 from ATD came over and soloed, you know, talking about 1.67 million solo size, very high. And you can also see Danny 4 stars and Cersei 4 stars. So, you know, working on that pretty crazy. And then the Agent Spear, so you can see tier 5 spear thrown in there as well. So quite amazing to be able to have that kind of punch, that kind of power. And then going into a Cav Spear formation as well. So all those cavalry got annihilated. Well, not even just all of them, everything. I mean, if you look here, you know, you're talking almost about 300,000 that just didn't do anything, that are, you know, that lived. So it's pretty bad. So you can see this was an actual defeat. Killed 500,000 of them, so not too bad, but could have been worse. Got into the tier 4, so you know that's something to think about and to learn, is what maybe there wasn't enough meat shield there for it. But the big thing is they didn't get into the tier 5, because you never want to lose those. They're so tough to get, so tough to make. So it makes it very, very difficult. So I hope this gave you a little better idea, some ideas of actually what happened. You can see over here, if you're looking on the left, that they just kept attacking me over and over again. Probably just taking my resources. I don't even know, because I left them up. Yeah, you can see the resources that they're taking, so which is fine. Resources are, you know, you got farms for that. So next time, Mac out.